Hello and welcome to this UniTaster On Demand event today. My name is John Sheik. I'm here from UniTasterDays, and it's my job to introduce the event and introduce our speakers today. And the subject we're going to be looking at is theatre. And with these events, what we try and do is tell you more about what to expect on the course, why you might be interested in studying it, application tips, and also careers. And I'm delighted to be joined by two experts from Middlesex University in London. That is Rob and Meg, and they're going to be telling us more about studying theatre at university. And with that, Rob, Meg, I'll pass things over to you.
Hi, my name is Rob Vesty. I'm at Middlesex University and I'm joined by my colleague here, Meg Cunningham. And we're here to talk to you briefly today about what it's like to study theatre at a university. You might have a very good idea already about what it's like to study theatre at a university, but let's just consider it for a moment that theatre isn't narrowly defined. It can be very many things, and you might have a lot of experience, or you may have no experience in theatre. It may be that your experience is in community theatre or musical theatre, acting stage plays. It might be that you're a designer, that you're a costume maker. It might be that you already have a hankering to develop your career as a solo performer or a stand-up comedian or a teacher of theatre. So what we're here to just talk to you today about is what you might expect to study theatre at a university and how it will give you typically that kind of broad range and exposure to these different disciplines within the theatre discipline itself.
Theatre is the beating heart of UK's creative industries. Industry research shows that theatre training is highly transferable. So the skills that you learn in a university degree in theatre, you can apply to lots of other sectors in any sort of industry, but especially in the creative industries. So industry research actually shows that 88% of theater workers also work in related industries such as film, TV, and media. And in fact, looking out ahead into what your career might want to be, creative careers account for 2.3 million jobs in the UK. And it's one of the fastest growing sectors in the economy. And theater training can prepare you for all of that. A theater degree can open you up because you're going to be learning things about management and about people skills and about collaborating, troubleshooting, problem solving. Even advertising and marketing can be part of what you would learn in a degree here that you're studying at university for theater. But really, we're a lot of the focus for theater is about how to connect with people, with audiences, or with clients, or with customers. And in that way, we call theater the heart of all of those creative industries that can lead you forward in your career in the future.
So what makes uni different from perhaps studying theatre in a different context, maybe a drama school or a conservatoire? Well, I think the key to that is flexibility. Whereas you might have a program that steers you in a particular way towards acting, design, stage management, directing, on a university course, it's typically going to combine those interests, at least in the first year, and expose you to the whole process of theatre making. And in that way, it also expands your range of skills so that you can become more rooted in practice or autonomous in your practice, and that you can also discover, I think that's the crucial thing, discover what it is that makes you tick in terms of your artistic practice. What you also get at a university that perhaps you wouldn't get at a drama school is that exposure also to different disciplines. So you're going to be typically at a university, certainly you would be at Middlesex, where the faculty might also include programs that are working through fashion or dance or media or film or music. And so the university community is often quite broad. It affords you the opportunity to collaborate across disciplines, and it exposes you and embeds you in a community of learners that's vibrant and diverse. The other thing, I think, what you would get at a university is this kind of critical underpinning for your practice. And that's kind of crucial, really, a crucial difference. And what that means really is that through the doing, and very often a university course, certainly at Middlesex, our approach is learning through doing, through practice, through studio practice. But that also is underpinned by thinking and asking questions and considering and offering up critical frameworks to problematize and question what it is you're doing. And only then can we begin to reshape and experiment and take risks that will help reshape the industry of the future and put you at the vanguard like that. Also at a university, I would say that the support mechanisms, and of course this happens in any higher education institution for sure, but there are all kinds of services, support services that will support your development, not just along your topic, your area of, in this case, theatre, but also with regard to extracurricular activities, student union services, practices, opportunities, whether it be political societies, LGBTQ societies, or musical theatre societies, or whatever it might be. There's a vibrant community and a support network through which you can draw. The other thing I'd say is that very often a university course will be designed with employability very much at the forefront. What certainly we try and do, and we're very good at doing actually at Middlesex, is knitting your course into the industry, into the real life world, in the real world application of theatre. So certainly by your third year, and we'll talk about this in a minute, you'll be on placement in an organisation. Certainly you'll be thinking about how you market yourself and pitch yourself to the industry, and you'll be working with industry professionals, not just people on the course. Meg is one of them. I'm also someone who's got and continues to practice in the industry. You know, we're not just teachers, if you like. That's not the whole of what we do, and I think that's crucial at uni. You're going to get taught by people who are undertaking research that might be internationally renowned, and they'll be teaching you from a perspective that means that they're very much kind of working through their own practice, and teaching won't be the whole of what they do. So you have exposure to those sorts of that kind of environment, really. And the other thing I'd say is a university encourages you to take risks. Mm-hmm. And it does that. You know, you'll be working with your peers and professionals. You're looking to create original work, find out who you are, find out who other people are, crucially, and how you can collaborate with each other, which is a massive skill to develop, and it's one that employers really value. It's also about actually, you know, testing stuff. There's a kind of laboratory ethos that often courses through a university environment. I would take that into account, but also note that while you're doing that, we don't compromise. Certainly we don't at Middlesex, and I think this is true of universities across the board, that you're still engaging in practice, and very often in creating many productions with high production values. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds.
All right. So once you decide that you want to attend university for a theater degree, what's the journey that you actually take? So 3-year structure, and generally in your first year is all about discovery. You discover what you're interested in. You get introduced to all aspects of the area of study, theater, of course, in this case. You discover new ways of thinking about theater and about the subject and about audiences and about storytelling. And you get to learn from teachers who know this subject really well, as Rob was saying earlier. So, for example, in first year at Middlesex, we introduce them to performance, we introduce them to design and performance design, and we also really dive into what is the perspectives of theater. So how theater and performance actually communicate to audiences. And we do that all the way from the ancient Greeks, which discovered theater and started theater way thousands of years ago, and how they communicated audience and what the classics actually mean, all the way to new work that's happening right now in London, to paying audiences. And we talk about all of that. And that's a huge thing that as a first year university student, you really get to dive into your subject. but also get a taster of a little bit of everything. The other thing that Rob has already mentioned this, but in your first year, you really get to discover who you are as a person. University is a place that you get to explore what you're interested in. Maybe you hadn't heard about this one playwright that you just now absolutely love. Those are the kind of things you get to discover in your first year. You also get to discover who other people are and how you relate to other people. In a course or a degree like theater, it's really about working with other people and talking with others to find out what they're interested in and how they communicate to what art they want to say. And in most universities, this is the case. But for example, at Middlesex, you actually join in with the community of other theater artists and theater makers. As a first year, you get to work with second years and third years, and even sometimes the MA students. So we have this big community welcoming of students and faculty and staff and technicians, and all of that helps train you as first year that then you get to utilize for the next couple of years. The second year is really about developing your practical skills and your own processes as an artist and as a theater maker. Generally at a university, your second year offers more options or choices so that you can develop your own pathway within your subject. And because you have a little more of these choices, you can hone in on the skills that you're learning in university, as well as refining your own process within those skills. So for example, maybe there's more offerings in solo performance versus collaborative performance. Maybe you focus a little more on directing or on writing or on design. And that's really after your introductory classes of your first year. Your second year is when you can start really getting into that. Your second year also is more robust critical underpinning for your academic at a university, where you're applying your knowledge, not just practically, but also academically. And I do have to say, Rob and I were talking about this earlier, that it's really a delight to see how far second years come when they start and when they end, and how much they feel comfortable with their own independence as artists and their own autonomy that they discover through their second year classes. It's a new way of learning once you hit your second year, and you get to shape yourself. Well, you shape yourself as well as shaping your academic career more for what you want to learn. And you really get to discover all the new questions and really understand that there's no one answer for any question that we have, especially in the arts. So by the time you get to the third year, it's really about defining who you are as a theater practitioner, as a theater artist. Through your university degree, you're really figuring out who you are and what you want to do once you go out into the world. And often, as Rob was saying, this is when you really start thinking about industry and employability and figuring out who you want to make theater work for. Who's your audience? Who are you talking to? And who are the collaborators that you want to do that with? And often those collaborators are other partners outside of the university. Third year is really when you get to talk about your placement and do placement. At Middlesex, we have relationships with alumni who have gone on to be successful, as well as other institutions that are London-based. We also have really good employability resources here on campus that really help plug our students in their third year to get them in the industry before they graduate and are welcomed with open arms into industry. Yeah, and so third year, it's about figuring out what that real context is for you to go out to become a professional in the industry.
So what might a typical week look like? Well, certainly, and we've kind of spoken to this a little bit, but you'll be doing lots of practical stuff. Some universities are weighted more towards practice, some theory, and you need to find out what that weight is. Most, though, lots will, certainly we do emphasize practice. So you'll be in a studio for a 3-hour class. You'll be having voice classes, movement classes, design classes. You'll have training sessions that are aside from your modules, perhaps, but certainly that doing is a crucial aspect. But you will also have discussion-based classes, seminars they might be called, where you take a text, you look at some critical theory, you discuss, you inquire and exchange ideas. You will also need to engaging in independent rehearsals in your own time. Of course, coming up to production, we have a lot of production work at Middlesex, and each year culminates in a big final production. In the third year, it's in an external venue. In the second year, it's in a smaller studio. In the first year, it's in a big theatre, with all the production values you'd expect: lighting, costume, sound. It's all developed, and it's open to the public to come and watch. But of course, that means that you might well need to come in and in extra hours around that time to rehearse. You'll have one-to-one tutorials very often. Sometimes they're online. I should say that across the board here, this is all happening face to face, in person, on campus, and certainly for us anyway. Tutorial work might be more blended in that way. Look at your progress, answer any questions, really think of you as an individual learner and what you need and how you might be best supported through your learning. And you'll also have non-timetable days for independent study. I mean, that is a case with university perhaps that differs from a drama school, is whereas a drama school you'll be there from perhaps 9 till 6, 5 days a week. Typically at a university, and it varies, we have 3 full days for our students, which allows them to have 2 days for independent study, and possibly also to work part-time, which is a reality for some students. So that is a kind of typical week you might expect. But what you want to do is find out, when you visit open days and inquire into different universities, what that might look like at each university, because it will differ.
All right, so once you've discovered what university you want to attend, really look into the partnerships and inspiring destinations that they have access to for you as a student. This is a little snapshot of partnerships that we at Middlesex have, and you can see this wide range of opportunities that students that study theater can have. So you can see that there are big institutions in the United Kingdom. So the National Theatre, the Opera, dance, as well as the smaller venues, Fringe, or up and coming companies like Tangled Feet, as well as, of course, film and television, Netflix, BBC. These are all resources that any university would be able to give you opportunities to as a student at the university. So when you're looking into universities, see what connections a department has, who their faculty have worked with, or faculty and staff have worked with, as well as where their alumni have landed. And that will inspire you to discover maybe options that you didn't know as a university student until you show up there. Okay,
and lastly, how to apply. Some top tips. It will vary. Check it out. Maybe you will be required to audition. And that audition might be how you typically understand an audition to be: learning a speech, performing a speech in front of a panel, that kind of stereotypical way. I think that's dying out, and it's more likely, as we offer at Middlesex, that you'll engage in a creative workshop. It might be 3 hours, 4 hours long. What we do is we invite you to come and work in a team, for you to get to know us, for us to listen to your ideas, for you to respond to a stimulus, a creative text, and create a piece of theatre that's lit, that's costumed, that has props, that we really try and get something off the ground in a short amount of time. And I know that those applicants that have come and engaged in that kind of day have raved about it afterwards, because they've not felt like they've been auditioned or interviewed, and yet of course they have. But what they've also found out is how we work, how the environment is, and what they might expect. So top tip: you think that the university won't just be checking you out, you will be checking them out, and it won't be quite like that, but there's a collaborative ethos in many places, and to that end, there shouldn't be too much pressure. You might be engaged in an interview, a one-to-one interview perhaps, or a couple of tutors may want to know more about you. That might be face-to-face, it might be online. I mean, I had my interview, I had a creative workshop when I went to audition for my university, but this was 20 years ago now and more. I had an interview, and I remember that interview, I had to walk through very many corridors to get there. It felt like 10 minutes on the door, and I had my interview, and just as I was leaving the tutor had interviewed me, said, could you go and tell so-and-so to come next? And by the time I'd done the 15-minute walk down to the room where I was supposed to say so-and-so, I'd forgotten their name, and I had to go all the way back again and knock on the door sheepishly. And I think I often tell that story because I think it says something about how you shouldn't be afraid to be yourself. You know, be human, be yourself, engage in the process, be present to it. You ask questions, they'll ask questions, let it be a conversation. Don't get too, feel the pressure or too anxious about these processes. It may be for whatever reason you can't go to campus. It may be that then you're asked to make a self-tape. And my tip here is, if you're recording a self-tape that you submit, maybe you're going to put it up on YouTube as an unlisted video and share the link. Whatever it is you do, and it should only be a couple of minutes probably, but make sure that you've learnt your text, that you've memorized it, and that if it is a text, that it's one that speaks to you, the one that suits you, that it's a role that you really know how to play and enjoy playing and speaks to your strengths. Also, what I would say is, because if you're recording, you might want to just think about the frame, your background, your position in relation to the camera, if you're recording, the sound, you want to test it out. You want to make sure that in those 2 minutes, you can really pack a punch and get across to the viewer who you are and what it is you do, how passionate you are about theatre making. It may be that you want to, you're asked to create a design portfolio. And Meg, let me hand over you. Can you say something about this, because this is your domain?
Yeah, so a design portfolio that we would want to see for an applicant is really about how you think through design and how you communicate your design ideas. We're not looking for necessarily that you're a really good artist or drawer. Those are things that you can practice when you're in university. But we want to see the kind of work that you're interested in. Are you interested in sketching or painting? Or have you done a GCSE course on drafting? Absolutely, we'd love to see that. Do you like making little things that are model-like? Those are the kind of things that you can add into a portfolio. And as Rob was saying, for any sort of performance, it's all about presentation. Think about what you want to include and how that is presented. Is it in a printed portfolio? Is it an online portfolio? Is it some sort of PDF that can get emailed? Think about how you present yourself as an applicant and as a theater maker. We've seen all sorts of portfolios. Some of them are just in sketchbooks and it's really handmade, and some are a little more jazzy. And all of them are valid.
Make sure you ask questions. I think this is the key thing. We're here. What I want to just round off and say now is that wherever you're applying to a course at a university, you'll be communicated to by the central admissions team or whatever it is. So look out for your emails and really engage in that. But don't be afraid to find out who it is that's teaching on the course that you want to study. So here you have Meg and myself, and I've put up here some names of the people that run the actual programs, because we have a directing and a design and a performance acting strand. And you want to strike up conversations with them, stay in touch, because they'll know, we know stuff about our course that perhaps the central admissions and teams don't know. And that, I think, is the case, and you need both. I think that's the case across universities. So my tip here is to really strike up those conversations, stay in touch, and don't be afraid to ask questions, because no question's a stupid question. They're all good questions. I know from my experience that we'll all be really super happy to answer them for you. Good luck.
Thank you.